I walked into the office after my 3-day regional meeting feeling lighter than I had in months. The quarterly numbers were excellent. Our project deadlines had all been met, and I'd even managed to secure additional budget for team training. The moment I stepped off the elevator, something felt wrong. The usual Monday morning buzz was missing from our department floor. The East Wing corridor where my team of 7 brilliant engineers worked was eerily quiet. Finola? I called out, looking for our lead developer who was always first to arrive. No answer. Our workspace, the one we'd earned after delivering 3 consecutive breakthrough projects, stood empty. Desks cleared, monitors gone. Even the potted plants we'd nurtured were missing. Only rectangular dust outlines remained where our equipment had been. I spotted Loxley from accounting walking past. "Hey, what happened to my team?" "Oh." His expression shifted to something resembling pity. "You should check the basement. They moved them yesterday." "The basement?" We didn't even have office space in the basement. The elevator ride down felt eternal. Each floor passing by heightened my dread. When the doors opened, I had to navigate through storage areas and maintenance rooms before finding a door with a hastily printed sign, Engineering Team B. I pushed it open to find my team huddled between exposed pipes and utility boxes. Their monitors balanced precariously on folding tables. Extension cords snaked across the concrete floor. Water dripped from a ceiling pipe, landing with rhythmic plunks into a bucket near Finola's makeshift desk. "What happened?" I asked, though their downcast faces told me everything. Finola looked up, her eyes burning with humiliation. "While you were gone, Dieter came down with movers. Said we needed to relocate immediately to make room for the new specialist. We had 30 minutes to pack everything." "A specialist? What specialist?" "Some productivity expert," Ren, our youngest developer, added. "Dieter says he's going to revolutionize the whole department." I climbed back upstairs to our former workspace. MRA, bright, airy, strategically positioned between the testing lab and design team. Now it housed a single person, a young man arranging framed certificates on what used to be my desk, while Dieter, our department head of 5 months, hovered nearby with an expression of unbridled admiration. "Ah, there you are," Dieter exclaimed when he spotted me. "Meet Bastian, our new productivity transformation specialist." His revolutionary approach increased output 300% at his last 3 companies. He needs proper space to implement his vision. He lowered his voice. "Your team can manage downstairs until next quarter's budget review." I stared at Bastian, who didn't even pause arranging his awards to acknowledge me. I nodded silently and returned to the basement where my team waited, the distant hum of industrial machinery vibrating through the walls. The Wi-Fi signal barely reached. The nearest bathroom was a single toilet behind a shower curtain. The air smelled of mildew and defeat. 32 years with this company," muttered Vega, our hardware specialist, "and this is how they treat us." I surveyed their dejected faces, people who had given everything to this company, who had pulled countless all-nighters to meet impossible deadlines, now stuffed in a basement like unwanted furniture. Then I smiled calmly. "Pack your bags," I said. "Not just for down here. Everything." They stared, confused but trusting. I held their gaze, my smile never wavering. "Trust me. Just start quietly gathering everything you might want to take with you someday, and keep this conversation between us." If you're enjoying this story so far, please tap that like button and subscribe for more workplace revenge stories that will leave you breathless. I'd love to hear in the comments if you've ever been undervalued at work. My name is Thea Moretti, and until that basement moment, I'd been the loyal, dependable leader of Engineering Team B for 8 years. Before joining the company, I'd spent 15 years coordinating refugee camp logistics during humanitarian crises across 3 continents. The company had hired me for my technical knowledge, unaware that I'd spent those years building global industry relationships while setting up supply chains in impossible conditions. I wasn't just good at solving technical problems, I excelled at solving human ones. When I transitioned to corporate life, I brought those skills with me. I could spot talent in unlikely places and build cohesion among wildly different personalities. Each member of my team had been handpicked not just for their technical brilliance, but for their ability to solve problems under extreme pressure. Finola, our lead developer, had been rejected by 3 other companies because of her unfiltered communication style before I recognized her genius with complex systems. Ren, fresh out of college but with natural talent for finding elegant solutions, had been passed over for higher-profile graduates. Vega had been ready to retire when I convinced him his hardware expertise was irreplaceable. Then there was Dax, our quietest member who spoke 5 programming languages but struggled with human ones. Kyrie, whose testing protocols had become industry standard. Indra, whose security systems were impenetrable. And Noor, who could translate technical requirements into language anyone could understand. For 8 years, we delivered consistently excellent results without fanfare. We weren't the flashiest team, but executives knew we were the ones to call when they needed something impossible done reliably. 6 months earlier, our longtime department head retired, and Dieter arrived with grand ambitions but zero understanding of our work. From day one, he'd been hunting for a game changer to impress executives, ignoring our consistent results in favor of flashy innovations. His golden hire, Bastian, had dazzled him with buzzword-filled presentations and promises of revolutionary methods. What Dieter never investigated was why someone with such transformative skills changed jobs 3 times in 2 years. For 2 weeks after the basement relocation, we worked from our exile. The conditions were abysmal. The temperature fluctuated wildly. The lighting gave everyone headaches, and twice we had to cover equipment during overhead pipe leaks. Yet my team followed my quiet instructions: archive projects, organize knowledge bases, create transition guides, while continuing their assigned tasks without complaint. "I don't understand why we're documenting everything so meticulously," Dax whispered one afternoon. "It's not like they appreciate our work anyway. Everything we do should be done with integrity," I replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. "No matter where we do it." The others exchanged glances but kept working. They trusted me, even if they didn't understand. Then came a surprising call from Yvain, the CEO, requesting I present our team's accomplishments at the upcoming board meeting. My team's spirits lifted. Finally, recognition. The morning of the presentation, I dressed in my best outfit and carefully reviewed my slides in the basement's dim light. As I climbed the stairs to the executive floor, Dieter intercepted me in the stairwell. "Change of plans," he smirked, blocking my path. "The board wants to hear about future innovations, not past performance. Bastian will present instead." But Yvain specifically requested. "I spoke with her this morning. She agrees my approach makes more sense." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "The board needs to hear about where we're going, not where we've been. You can go back to your workspace." My team deflated when I returned with the news. Our youngest member, Ren, glanced at her half-written resignation letter visible on her screen. "So this is it? We're just giving up?" "Not yet," I replied, my voice steady. "Keep packing quietly." Later that day, word spread through the company grapevine that Bastian's presentation had bombed spectacularly. Board members had asked technical questions he couldn't answer, exposing his shallow understanding of our core business. Dieter attempted damage control by promising our team would implement the concepts, despite their reluctance to embrace change. That afternoon, Dieter visited our basement, suddenly friendly. "Good news. We're considering moving you back upstairs, to the East Wing." The East Wing, slightly better than the basement, but still a clear demotion from our original space. The message was clear. We were still less valuable than the golden hire. "Thank you for recognizing our value," I said, surprising my confused team who expected outright rejection. Hope flickered again. That evening, Ren admitted she'd torn up her resignation letter. "If we're moving back upstairs, maybe things will improve." I merely nodded, saying nothing to confirm or deny her optimism. 2 days later, I invited an old colleague to tour our facility. As we walked through departments, I deliberately timed our arrival at the executive floor for when I knew Dieter would be showing Bastian around to potential clients. "Thea," Dieter called out, too loudly, too friendly. "Perfect timing. Come meet Grayscale Solutions executive team. They're interested in Bastian's productivity system." I approached with my visitor in tow. "This is my colleague, Talia." Dieter eagerly introduced Talia to Bastian, who launched into his rehearsed transformation speech. "Fascinating approach. Talia said when he finished. You've used this successfully elsewhere? Absolutely. My methods boosted efficiency dramatically at my previous companies. Northwest Technologies saw a 300% productivity increase in just 1 quarter. Strange, she replied, her voice cool and measured. I sit on the board of Northwest Technologies. We never recorded such improvements. In fact, we noted significant project delays during your tenure there. The conference room went silent. Bastian's confident smile faltered. There must be some confusion, Dieter began, his face flushing. No confusion, I interjected. Talia's here because I accepted her job offer yesterday. I'm bringing my team to establish a new engineering division at her company. We start next Monday. The grayscale executives shifted uncomfortably. Bastian's confident smile vanished completely. You can't take your team, Dieter sputtered. That's poaching. It's unethical. But completely legal, I finished for him. Check our contracts. No non-compete clauses. You relocated us to a basement with leaking pipes while focusing resources on unproven methods. Talia is offering us double our current salaries and proper working conditions. The board will never. The board approved it yesterday, Talia added, after reviewing your division's performance metrics against industry standards. Dieter's face cycled through shock, anger, and fear in rapid succession. The grayscale executives began gathering their things, making excuses to leave. Wait, Dieter's voice cracked slightly. The East Wing renovation starts tomorrow. I'll match their salary offers. I looked at him with the same calm smile I'd worn since finding my team in the basement. Too late, I said. The executives from Grayscale filed out, followed by Talia, who said she'd wait for me in the lobby. When only Dieter, Bastian, and I remained in the room, Dieter turned on me. Do you have any idea what you've done? He hissed. I've secured my team's future, I replied. Something you failed to do. You've destroyed mine, he said, his voice breaking. The board was already questioning Bastian's hiring. If your entire team leaves, you chose him over us, I said simply. Actions have consequences. As I turned to leave, Dieter grabbed my arm. Please, I made a mistake. I see that now. What will it take for you to stay? I looked at his hand until he released me. You know what's interesting about my refugee camp work? I said quietly. I learned that true character reveals itself not when things are going well, but in how people treat others when resources are scarce. You showed us exactly who you are when you put us in that basement. I walked out, leaving Dieter standing there with his golden hire, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the empty conference room. What I didn't tell him was that my plan had been in motion long before the basement incident, and that what he'd just witnessed was only the beginning. Back in the basement, my team waited anxiously. When I returned, their expressions ranged from hopeful to terrified. Well? Finola asked, unable to contain herself any longer. I closed the door behind me and surveyed the room, checking for any potential listening devices, a habit from my humanitarian crisis days. It's done. Talia offered us all positions, double our current salaries, proper equipment, and a real office with windows. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Ren let out a whoop that echoed off the concrete walls. Are you serious? Vega asked, his weathered face struggling between disbelief and hope. Completely, I confirmed. Contracts are being drawn up as we speak. We start next Monday. The celebration that followed was as muted as it was emotional. Hugs exchanged, tears wiped away discreetly. These weren't just colleagues. They were people who had become family through late nights, impossible deadlines, and shared successes. I knew you wouldn't leave us in this basement forever, Noor said, squeezing my hand. But how did you pull this off so quickly? I hesitated. It wasn't quick. I've been laying groundwork for months. Their faces registered confusion. Months? Indra asked. But the basement thing just happened 2 weeks ago. I sat on the edge of a folding table. The basement was just the final straw. I saw where things were heading the day Dieter arrived and started talking about fresh perspectives while ignoring our track record. So you've been planning our escape all this time? Kiri asked. Not exactly an escape, I corrected. More like an insurance policy. I started documenting everything, our contributions, Dieter's dismissals, project successes he took credit for. I reached out to old contacts, including Talia, just to reconnect. When things started deteriorating, those connections became more important. Dax, always the most perceptive despite his social awkwardness, studied my face. There's more to this than just finding us new jobs, isn't there? The others turned to me expectantly. Let's focus on the transition for now, I said carefully. We have 1 week to wrap things up properly. No loose ends, no unfinished projects. We leave with our professional reputations intact. What about Dieter? Finola asked, a dangerous edge to her voice. Does he know we're all leaving? He does, I confirmed, and he's panicking. The board was already questioning Bastian's hiring and the resources allocated to him. Losing an entire specialized team in one stroke is going to raise serious concerns about Dieter's leadership. Good, Vega muttered. 32 years, and he sticks me in a basement. What's our strategy for the next week? Indra asked, ever the pragmatist. We work. Professionally, thoroughly, and without complaint, I said. We document everything meticulously. We prepare transition guides for our replacements. We act with complete integrity. Why? Ren asked, her youth making her the most direct. Why help them after how they treated us? Because this isn't about them, I explained. It's about us, about who we are. And because the best revenge isn't what you do to others, it's what you build for yourself while they're not paying attention. The team exchanged glances, not fully understanding but trusting me nonetheless. There's something else you should know, I added. Talia isn't just offering us jobs. She's creating an entirely new division with us as the core team. We'll have autonomy to build something from the ground up. This revelation shifted the mood from cautious celebration to genuine excitement. Even Vega, who had been contemplating retirement before the basement incident, straightened with newfound energy. What are we waiting for? He asked. Let's finish our work here so we can start our real work there. For the next 3 days, we operated with mechanical precision. Every line of code was commented, every process documented, every system mapped. We worked longer hours than necessary, our impending freedom fueling our productivity. On the 4th day, Dieter appeared in our basement, looking haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his typically immaculate shirt was wrinkled. Thea, can we talk privately? He asked, his voice lacking its usual confidence. I glanced at my team, who pretended to be absorbed in their work while obviously straining to hear. Anything you need to say can be said here. We don't have secrets. He shifted uncomfortably. I've spoken with the executive team. They've authorized me to offer your entire team a 15% raise, effective immediately. We're also expediting the renovation of the East Wing. You could be back upstairs by next week. I noticed he didn't mention what would happen to Bastian. That's very generous, I said, but we've already signed contracts with Talia. Contracts can be broken, he pressed. I'm sure there are clauses. One. There aren't, I interrupted. Talia's legal team made sure of that. Dieter's professional veneer cracked slightly. Please, Thea. I admit I made a mistake with the basement situation, but this is going to destroy my career. The board meeting is on Friday, and if I have to announce that our entire engineering team resigned, for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The basement wasn't a mistake, Dieter. It was a revelation. It showed us exactly how much you valued our contribution. I kept my voice level. You chose Bastian's empty promises over our proven results. Now you have to live with that choice. He left without another word, shoulders slumped in defeat. The moment the door closed, my team erupted in whispered exclamations. Did you see his face? Kyrie marveled. 15%, Dax murmured. That's substantially less than double. It's not about the money, Finola said sharply. It's about respect. I let them talk, turning back to my computer to hide my expression. What they didn't know, what I couldn't tell them yet, was that Dieter's desperation was exactly what I had been counting on. That evening, as we were preparing to leave, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Yvain, the CEO. I stepped into the hallway to take the call. Thea, she began without preamble. I just heard the news from Dieter. Is it true your entire team has resigned? Yes, I confirmed. We've accepted positions elsewhere. A long pause. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow morning. Just you, not your team. 9 o'clock in my office. I'll be there, I agreed, then hung up. When I returned to the basement, 7 pairs of eyes locked onto me. The CEO? Finola guessed. What did she want? A meeting tomorrow morning, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Are they going to try to stop us from leaving? Ren asked, worry creasing her forehead. They can't, I assured her. Our contracts are solid. This is probably just an exit interview. But as I said it, I knew it was much more than that. Yvain wasn't the type to conduct exit interviews personally. Whatever she wanted would complicate my carefully constructed plan, for better or worse. I slept poorly that night, rehearsing scenarios in my head. By morning, I had prepared for every possibility except the one that actually occurred. Yvain's office occupied the corner of the top floor, with glass walls offering a panoramic view of the city. She sat behind a minimalist desk, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed documents. When I entered, she removed her glasses and gestured to the chair across from her. Thea, she said, her tone unreadable. I appreciate you coming. Of course, I replied, taking the seat. She studied me for a moment. I've been reviewing your team's contributions over the past 5 years. Impressive work, consistently delivered with minimal resources. Thank you. My team is exceptional. Yes, she agreed, which makes me wonder why they're all leaving simultaneously. The basement relocation seems insufficient as an explanation. I maintained eye contact. It wasn't just the basement, it was what the basement represented. Explain. When Dieter moved us downstairs to make room for Bastian, he sent a clear message about our value to the company. The basement was just the physical manifestation of how he, and by extension, the company, viewed our worth. Yvain leaned back. And you think I share this view? With respect, I said carefully, you approved Bastian's hiring and the resources allocated to him, despite no proven track record. So yes, I assumed you endorsed Dieter's approach. To my surprise, she laughed, a short, sharp sound. Dieter convinced the board, not me. I was outvoted. And now I get to say, I told you so at tomorrow's meeting. Her expression sobered. But losing your team is too high a price for being right. She slid a folder across the desk. This is what I'm prepared to offer to keep your team here. Not under Dieter, reporting directly to me. I opened the folder and scanned the document inside. The terms were exceptional, better even than Talia's offer. Autonomy, resources, recognition, and compensation that reflected our true value. For the first time since this all began, I felt my resolve waver. This was everything we deserved, everything I had wanted for my team before Dieter arrived. Why now? I asked, closing the folder. Why not 6 months ago? Politics, she said simply. The board wanted to give Dieter a chance to implement his vision. I couldn't undermine him openly, but this situation changes things. You're using our resignation to consolidate power, I observed. She didn't deny it. Mutual benefit, Thea. You get what your team deserves. I get to restructure without internal warfare. I need to discuss this with my team, I said, taking the folder. Of course. But I need an answer by end of day. The board meets tomorrow. As I stood to leave, she added, there's something else you should know. Talia and I have history. This isn't the first time she's recruited from us after disagreements. The implication hung in the air. Was I being used as a pawn in some corporate chess game between Yvain and Talia? I returned to the basement, mind racing. My team looked up expectantly. What happened? Finola asked. I held up the folder. Yvain wants us to stay. New department, reporting directly to her. Better terms than Talia's offer. The stunned silence was broken by Vega. She's trying to save face. Maybe, I acknowledged. Or maybe she's sincere. Either way, we need to discuss this. What followed was the most honest conversation we'd ever had as a team. Fears were voiced, hopes articulated, trust questioned. The basement's dim lighting seemed fitting for the shadows we were exploring in our professional lives. I don't trust them, Indra said firmly. They only value us now that we're leaving. But building something new here, with real support, Kiri countered. We wouldn't have to start over somewhere else. Ren looked torn. What about our word to Talia? We signed contracts. With exit clauses, I reminded her. Legally, we could accept Yvain's offer. Dax, who had been quiet throughout, finally spoke. This decision isn't about what's best for us professionally. It's about what we can live with personally. All eyes turned to me. What do you think, Thea? You've led us this far. I took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine everything, not just our careers, but the culmination of the plan I'd been crafting for months. The plan that had evolved from simple self-preservation to something much more complex. I think, I said slowly, that we should split up. Their faces registered shock. Not permanently, I clarified. Strategically, 4 of us accept Yvain's offer. 3 go with Talia as planned. We maintain our connections, share information, and protect ourselves from being vulnerable to any single employer again. The silence that followed was profound. Then Finola began to laugh. That's absolutely brilliant, she said. We become our own network. Neither company can take us for granted again. The tension broke as the team began discussing how this might work. Who would go where, how we'd coordinate, the potential advantages of having inside perspectives at 2 major companies. As they talked, I slipped away to make 2 phone calls. The first to Yvain, the second to Talia. Both conversations were challenging, but by their conclusion, I had secured what we needed. When I returned, the team had reached consensus on who would stay and who would go. I've spoken to both Yvain and Talia, I announced. They've agreed to our split approach with one condition: regular collaboration between the 2 teams on select projects. They're actually excited about the possibility. And which group will you lead? Noor asked the question everyone was thinking. I smiled. Neither. I'll be consulting for both teams, dividing my time, building bridges rather than choosing sides. The relief in the room was palpable. We'd found a solution that honored everyone's needs while creating something entirely new, a team that transcended organizational boundaries. As we celebrated our unconventional solution, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Board meeting moved up to tomorrow, 9 a.m. Dieter presenting restructuring plan. Bastian featured prominently. Thought you should know. A friend. I stared at the message, my mind rapidly recalculating. This changed everything and nothing. The final phase of my plan would need to happen sooner than expected, but the outcome might be even better than I'd hoped. Change of plans, I announced, interrupting the celebration. We need to prepare for tomorrow's board meeting. Why? Vega asked. We've made our decision. Because, I said, tomorrow isn't just about our future. It's about making sure everyone understands exactly why we're leaving and what they're losing. As I outlined what we needed to do, I saw understanding dawn on their faces. This wasn't just about finding better jobs or escaping a bad situation. This was about changing the system that had devalued us in the first place. By midnight, we had everything prepared. As we finally left the basement, possibly for the last time, Ren asked the question I'd been waiting for. Thea, how long have you really been planning this? All of this? I looked at my team, my brilliant, loyal team, who had trusted me through basement offices and uncertain futures. They deserved the truth, or at least part of it. Since the day Dieter introduced Bastian as the future of the department, I admitted. But what's happening tomorrow? That part I've been planning much longer. What exactly is happening tomorrow? Finola pressed. Justice, I replied simply. And I need you all to trust me one more time. As they nodded their agreement, I felt a surge of something powerful. Not just the satisfaction of a plan coming together, but the absolute certainty that what we were about to do was right. Not just for us, but for every overlooked team, every undervalued contributor, every person who had ever been relocated to a metaphorical basement to make room for someone flashier but less substantial. Tomorrow would change everything, and no one, not even my team, knew exactly how. Morning arrived with a pale light filtering through the basement's tiny windows. I arrived before anyone else, dressed in the charcoal suit I reserved for the most important client presentations. As my team arrived one by one, each looked surprised to see me already there, calmly preparing materials. Ready for today? Finola asked, setting down her bag. More than ready, I replied, handing her a sealed envelope. When the time comes, you'll know what to do with this. The others received similar envelopes, each with specific instructions. They tucked them away without questions, the ultimate demonstration of trust. At 8:30, we made our way to the executive floor. The boardroom doors remained closed. Executives and board members likely already inside discussing matters before the official meeting. My team and I waited in the adjacent room, an uncomfortable silence hanging between us. "Shouldn't we be in there?" Ren whispered, gesturing toward the boardroom. "We weren't invited," I explained. "But don't worry, we will be." At precisely 8:55, Yvain's assistant approached us. "The CEO requests Engineering Team B join the meeting." My team exchanged nervous glances as we gathered our materials and followed her into the boardroom. The long mahogany table was surrounded by board members in expensive suits, with Yvain at the head. Dieter sat halfway down, papers spread before him, with Bastian beside him looking uncharacteristically subdued. Dieter's eyes widened when he saw us enter. He leaned over to whisper something to Bastian, whose complexion paled considerably. "Thank you for joining us," Yvain said, gesturing to the empty chairs on the opposite side of the table. "I've asked Thea and her team to provide context for some of the proposals we're discussing today." As we took our seats, I noticed a familiar face among the board members. Talia sat 3 seats down from Yvain, offering me a slight nod. "Now, Dieter," Yvain continued, "you were about to present your departmental restructuring plan?" Dieter stood, straightening his tie nervously. "Yes, as you know, our department is undergoing significant transformation to align with market demands. The centerpiece of this transformation is our new productivity methodology, pioneered by Bastian, which promises to revolutionize our workflow." He clicked through several slides showing colorful charts with impressive upward trends. "Initial implementation has begun, and we project a 200% productivity increase by year-end." "Impressive," one board member commented. "And what about the existing engineering team? How are they adapting to these new methodologies?" Dieter hesitated, glancing at us. "There have been some resistance to change, as expected with any transformation. But we're addressing that through gradual implementation and appropriate resource allocation." "Resource allocation," Yvain repeated. "Could you elaborate on that, Dieter?" He shifted uncomfortably. "We've had to prioritize certain workspace considerations to maximize efficiency. Some temporary relocation was necessary." "By temporary relocation, do you mean moving an entire specialized engineering team to the basement?" Yvain asked, her voice deceptively mild. The board members stirred, several frowning as they looked between Dieter and our team. "It was an interim solution," Dieter insisted. "The renovation plans for proper workspace are already underway." "I see," Yvain said. "And these renovations began after you learned the team was resigning, correct?" Dieter's face flushed. "The timing was—" "Thea," Yvain interrupted, turning to me. "Perhaps you could give the board your perspective?" I stood, feeling the weight of every gaze in the room. "Thank you, Yvain. Before I begin, I want to clarify that what I'm about to share isn't about personal grievances. It's about systematic issues that threaten this company's future." I turned to my team. "Now, please." They each opened their envelopes and distributed documents to every person at the table. Dieter received his copy last, his hand trembling slightly as he took it. "What you're looking at," I explained, "is a comprehensive analysis of our department's productivity over the past 5 years, alongside financial allocations and resource distribution. The final pages show projected outcomes based on current management decisions." The board members flipped through the meticulously prepared documents, their expressions growing increasingly concerned. "These numbers can't be right," one board member said, pointing to a particular section. "This shows a projected 30% decline in deliverables under the new structure." "The numbers are accurate," I confirmed. "They're based on the department's own data, accessed through our project management systems. This indicates the team relocated to the basement was responsible for 78% of the department's successful deliverables last year." Another board member noted, looking up sharply. "Dieter, were you aware of this?" Before Dieter could respond, I continued. "What you may find most interesting is on page 12, the background check my team conducted on Bastian." Bastian jumped to his feet. "That's private information. You had no right." Every bit of information there is publicly available. I cut in calmly, including court records from the wrongful termination lawsuit at your previous company and the class action settlement from the company before that. The room went silent as everyone turned to those pages. Bastian slowly sank back into his chair. You'll note, I continued, that Bastian's revolutionary methodology has been implemented at 3 companies. All 3 experienced initial enthusiasm followed by significant productivity declines. 2 of those companies no longer exist. The third laid off 40% of their workforce last quarter. Dieter's face had gone from red to ashen. I wasn't aware. No, you weren't, I agreed, because you didn't do proper due diligence. You were so focused on finding a game changer that you ignored both warning signs and the consistent results your existing team was delivering. I turned to address the entire board. This isn't just about my team being relocated to a basement. It's about a management approach that values flash over substance, that chases quick wins at the expense of sustainable growth. It's about decision-making that ignores data in favor of charisma. The silence that followed was profound. Even Yvain seemed taken aback by the thoroughness of our presentation. Finally, the board chair spoke. Yvain mentioned your team has received offers elsewhere. Given what you've shown us, I'm not surprised. But I'm curious, why bring this to us now, when you're already leaving? I smiled. Because I care about this company, despite recent events, and because my team and I have proposed an alternative structure that would benefit everyone. I nodded to Noor, who distributed a second set of documents. This proposal suggests splitting our team between continuing here and joining Talia's company, with collaborative projects between the 2. It provides stability during transition, maintains crucial institutional knowledge, and creates a partnership that could strengthen both companies. Talia spoke up for the first time. I've reviewed this proposal and fully support it. This arrangement would be unprecedented in our industry and potentially revolutionary. The board chair studied the proposal, then looked at Dieter. And where do you fit in this new structure? Before Dieter could respond, I answered. That's for the board to decide. Our proposal requires new leadership for the remaining team, someone who values substance over style. The board chair nodded slowly, then turned to Dieter. I think we need to continue this discussion privately. Thea, thank you for your candor. Would you and your team give us the room? As we gathered our things to leave, Dieter finally found his voice. This is a setup, he hissed. You've been planning this for months. I met his gaze steadily. No, Dieter. You set this up the moment you decided my team belonged in a basement. I simply made sure everyone understood the consequences of that decision. 3 hours later, my team and I sat in a local restaurant, celebrating with Talia as my phone buzzed with a message from Yvain. Dieter and Bastian are gone. Board approved your proposal. When can you start as department director? I showed the message to my team, whose cheers drew curious glances from other diners. I quickly typed my response. Monday. Half-time, as agreed. Other half with Talia's team. So that was your plan all along? Finola asked, her eyes wide with realization. Not just to leave, but to completely restructure both companies and take Dieter's position? Not exactly, I admitted. The original plan was simply to secure our team's future. But when I saw how deeply flawed the system was, I realized we had an opportunity to fix it, not just for us, but for everyone who might come after us. And splitting the team between companies? Vega asked. Insurance, I explained. No single employer will ever have complete leverage over us again. We'll always have options. Ren raised her glass. To basements, then. Without them, none of this would have happened. We all laughed and clinked glasses. As conversation flowed around me, I thought about how sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, but building something better from the rubble of their mistakes. 6 months later, our unprecedented arrangement had become a case study in industry publications. The collaborative model between formerly competing companies had increased innovation while reducing burnout. Both companies' stock prices had risen significantly. As for Dieter and Bastian, last I heard, Dieter was working at a much smaller company in a reduced role. Bastian had reinvented himself as a workplace culture consultant, still chasing the next opportunity to sell empty promises. And my team? No longer in any basement. We occupied bright, airy offices in both companies. Our worth finally recognized not just in words but in actions. More importantly, we'd created a new model that valued substance over style, consistency over charisma, and respect over hierarchy. The most satisfying revenge isn't what you do to those who wronged you. It's creating a world where what they did to you becomes impossible for them to do to anyone else. If you've ever been undervalued at work or pushed aside for someone with a flashier approach, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear how you handled it. And if you enjoyed this story of workplace justice, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of people who turned professional lemons into leadership lemonade. I sat in that small room with the flickering light above and watched him say the words like he was ordering lunch. "We're letting you go. Found someone who'll do your job for half what we pay you. Economics. You understand." Wade had this way of talking where he'd say something cruel and then smile, like the smile would make it okay. He did it now. That same grin he used when he asked me to stay late, when he needed something fixed, when he wanted me to explain why products were arranged a certain way for the third time that month. 9 years. I'd given this place 9 years. When I started, the warehouses were a disaster. Products thrown wherever there was space. Summer items buried under winter stock in July. Suppliers threatening to stop working with us because orders kept getting messed up. Nobody wanted the inventory position because it looked impossible. I took it because I needed the job. Single mom, 2 kids, bills that didn't care about my feelings. Those first 6 months, I worked until midnight most nights. I learned every product we carried, where it came from, how fast it moved, which suppliers were reliable and which ones needed constant follow-up. I figured out that seasonal items needed to rotate through different zones based on timing. That bulk orders from certain buyers needed special handling. That some products couldn't be stored near others because of temperature or chemical reactions. I built spreadsheets that tracked everything. Not fancy, just functional. I color-coded zones in each warehouse. I created a rotation system that made sense. I negotiated with suppliers until they trusted us again. It took 2 years before everything ran smooth. After that, it just worked. Products flowed in and out, numbers balanced. Suppliers stopped complaining. The previous director used to say I made it look easy. Then Wade showed up. 2 years ago, he transferred from another location. Corporate gave him the division. He had a business degree from some university and used words like optimize and streamline in every meeting. He never asked me how the system worked, never wanted to learn the details. He just wanted reports that made him look good when he talked to his superiors. Get me the numbers for last quarter. I need a breakdown by category. Make a summary I can present. I did it, every time, because that was my job. But Wade had this attitude, like the work just happened by magic, like anyone could do what I did. He'd tell people at meetings, the inventory basically runs itself now. Very simple system. It wasn't simple. It was 9 years of knowledge packed into routines that looked simple because I'd made them that way. My name is Darby. I'm 41. I've worked since I was 16. I know what work is supposed to look like. You show up, you do what needs doing, you solve problems, you go home. This job meant something to me, not because I loved warehouses or inventory management, but because I'd built something that worked, because suppliers knew my name, because when something went wrong, I could fix it, because my kids had food and a place to live and Christmas presents. Wade didn't see any of that. He saw a salary line he could cut. "We've already hired your replacement," he said, still smiling. "Starts Monday. You've got until end of day to clear out your things and transition your duties." "Transition?" I said. "To who?" "You said he starts Monday. Today is Thursday. Write down what he needs to know. Shouldn't take long. You've always said the system is straightforward." I never said that. He said that. But arguing wouldn't change anything. Wade had already decided, probably weeks ago. This conversation was just a formality. "Fine," I said. His smile faltered. I think he expected me to beg, to cry maybe, to ask for another chance. I didn't give him that. I walked back to my workspace. Not an office, just an area with a chair and some shelving, where I kept binders full of supplier contacts, seasonal schedules, product specifications, 9 years of information that couldn't be written down in an afternoon. But I tried. I pulled out a notebook and started writing. Supplier names, phone numbers. Which ones needed orders placed 3 weeks early? Which ones ran late and needed buffer time? Which products had special storage requirements? Which buyers were difficult? How to handle the rotation system? When to start moving seasonal products? How to read the reports I'd built. 4 pages in, I realized how pointless this was. The person replacing me wouldn't understand any of this without context, without seeing how it worked in real time, without making the mistakes and learning from them like I did. Wade walked by once. "How's it coming?" "It's coming." He nodded and left. Nobody else said anything. A few people glanced at me. They knew. Word spreads fast in a place like this. But nobody wanted to get involved. Everybody had bills. Everybody needed their job. I understood that. Around 3, I finished writing what I could. I packed my personal items into a box. A coffee mug my daughter made in art class 6 years ago. A sweater I kept here for when the warehouses got cold. Some photos. A plant that somehow survived despite minimal sunlight. Not much to show for 9 years. I thought about the director, Hugh. He'd been with the company for 23 years. Ran 5 regions. Oversaw maybe 200 employees. Wade reported to someone who reported to Hugh, so they'd never actually met. But Hugh and I knew each other. It started 5 years back. One of the new hires got caught stealing. Kid was 19. Director's nephew. Someone's son who needed a summer job and thought he could pocket some merchandise without anyone noticing. Everyone found out. Hugh found out. There was a meeting. Loss prevention wanted to prosecute. Make an example. Show that nobody gets special treatment. They asked me what I thought. I was a supervisor then, before I moved fully into inventory management. I looked at this kid. Scared. Stupid. Young. "He's 19, I said. "Give him counseling. Make him pay it back, but don't ruin his life over this." The room went quiet. Everyone expected me to agree with prosecution. Hugh's own nephew. Hugh looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Do it that way," he said. The kid paid back what he stole, did counseling, finished the summer, never stole again. Last I heard, he was in college doing well. After that, Hugh started checking in with me. Every few months, we'd meet for breakfast at this place near the main warehouse. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast and coffee. He'd ask how things were going. Not just work, life, my kids, problems I was dealing with. Other people thought it was weird. Why would a regional director have breakfast with an inventory manager? But Hugh wasn't like that. He remembered that I'd shown his nephew mercy when nobody else would. He valued that. We had breakfast scheduled for today, 4 o'clock. We always did late afternoon because his mornings were packed with meetings. I looked at the clock, 3:15. Should I tell him I got fired? Or just cancel? I decided to go home. I'd text him later, explain what happened. He'd understand. He might even put in a word for me somewhere else in the company. I carried my box through the building, past people working, past the break area where I'd eaten lunch for 9 years, past the bulletin board with safety reminders and birthday announcements. Wade wasn't around when I left, probably in a meeting, taking credit for cutting costs. I loaded the box into my car and drove home. 20-minute drive through traffic, same route I'd taken thousands of times. I didn't cry, didn't feel angry, exactly, just empty, like something had been carved out, and I was supposed to keep moving anyway. At home, I put the box down, made tea, sat on the couch. My phone started buzzing. Hugh. I stared at it, let it ring. He'd leave a message. It rang again, again. On the 4th ring, I answered. "Where are you?" Hugh said. No greeting. His voice had an edge. "We have the review in 30 minutes. Your boss keeps saying you quit. What's happening?" I didn't quit, I said. Wade fired me. This morning. Said he found someone who'd work for less. Silence. I could hear Hugh breathing. Background noise. Voices. He what? Fired me. Told me to pack my things and write transition notes for my replacement. "I'm looking at the schedule right now," Hugh said. His voice had changed. Colder. "You're on here. Quarterly inventory review. 4 o'clock. We do this every 3 months, Darby. You've never missed one." I know. I was coming. Then Wade called me into his office and told me I was done. More silence. Then, "Stay near your phone." He hung up. I sat there holding my tea. It had gone lukewarm. Outside, I could hear kids playing. Someone mowing a lawn. Normal sounds. Normal day for everyone else. My phone buzzed. Text from Hugh. What's your boss's direct number? I sent it. Then I waited. 20 minutes passed. I tried not to imagine what was happening. Hugh calling Wade. Wade realizing he'd made a massive mistake. But what could Hugh do? Wade was management. He had authority to hire and fire within his division. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Darby, this is Pauline from HR. I'm calling about a termination that was processed today under your employee number. Can you confirm you met with Wade Brennan this morning? Yes. And he informed you of termination? Yes. Did he provide documentation? Severance information? No. He just told me to pack my things. I heard typing. I see. And did he cite performance issues? Disciplinary actions? He said they found someone cheaper. More typing. Longer this time. Okay. Thank you. Someone will contact you shortly. She hung up. I felt something then. Not hope, exactly, but something. An hour later, Wade called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Darby. His voice sounded different. Tight, like he was forcing the words out. There's been a misunderstanding. We need you back. Immediately. I said nothing. There was a communication issue with HR. Your termination wasn't properly authorized. We need you to return tomorrow morning. When? What happened to your better candidate? I said. That fell through. Look, this was a mistake. We value your contributions. You're essential to operations. Essential. He'd never used that word before. Never used any word that suggested I mattered. The director wants the inventory reports, Wade continued. For the review. You have all the data. Nobody else can pull it together in time. Nobody else. Because he'd fired the person who knew how. I'll think about it, I said. Darby, please. I need an answer now. We have obligations. Contracts. The quarterly review is critical for regional planning. You didn't care about that this morning. I made an error in judgment. It happens. But we can fix this. Come back. We'll discuss a raise. Better benefits. Before I continue further, thank you for listening to my story. I know you could be doing anything else right now, but you're here with me. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to know this story is reaching people everywhere. Now, let me tell you what happened next. I didn't go back that day, or the next. I let Wade sit with his mistake. Hugh called me that evening. I want you to understand what's happening, he said. I didn't fire Wade. I'm not transferring him. I'm doing something else. What? Promoting him. Effective immediately. He's personally responsible for all 3 warehouses. Direct oversight. No support staff. No transition period. Every decision goes through him. Every mistake falls on him. And he needs to produce the quarterly reports you usually handle. By himself. I didn't know what to say. He told corporate anyone could do your job, Hugh continued. So now he gets to prove it. He wanted to cut costs? Fine. He can manage the system himself and save your salary. Hugh, that system took me 9 years to build. He doesn't know how it works. I know. He's about to learn that. What about the warehouses? The operations? They'll survive. Might get messy for a while. But Wade made a decision that affects my region. He eliminated someone critical without consulting me, without understanding what he was losing. That has consequences. After Hugh hung up, I felt strange. Not happy. Exactly. Not satisfied. Just aware that something had shifted. Wade called me 6 more times that night. I didn't answer. The next day, I got a call from someone at the main warehouse. Trent. He worked shipping. Hey, is this Darby? Listen, I know you're not here anymore, but we have a problem. There's a shipment of winter gear that needs to go out today, and nobody knows where it's stored. Your boss is tearing through Zone C, but I'm pretty sure that's summer inventory. It's in Zone A, I said. Back corner, yellow labels. Thank you. He's been looking for 2 hours. Trent hung up. 20 minutes later, another call. Different warehouse. Supplier delivery came in wrong. Products they didn't order. Nobody knew who to contact to fix it. I walked them through it. Then another call. And another. Wade's voice got more desperate each time. Please. Everything's chaos. Nothing's where the reports say it should be. Suppliers are calling about missed orders. The replacement you mentioned? He quit. Walked out after 4 hours. Said the job was nothing like I described. What did you describe? Data entry. Simple inventory tracking. I didn't know it was this complex. You made it look easy. That word again. Easy. You never asked how it worked, I said. You just wanted it to work. I'm asking now. Come back. Name your price. I thought about it. Going back, taking the raise, returning to something familiar. But I'd spent 9 years building a system for someone who didn't value it, who thought I was replaceable, who smiled while he fired me. No, I said. Darby, please. The regional review is in 2 days. Hugh is demanding full reports, supplier analyses, zone efficiency breakdowns, product movement tracking. I don't even know what half of that means. You should have learned when you had the chance. I hung up. Over the next week, I watched from a distance as everything unraveled. Friends still working there would text me updates, products getting shipped to wrong locations, seasonal items sitting in zones where they'd degrade, suppliers threatening to drop contracts because orders were chaotic. Wade was working 16-hour days trying to fix it. He'd call me at midnight, voice raw from exhaustion, begging for help. I'd answer sometimes, give him small pieces of information, enough to keep things from completely collapsing, not enough to save him. Hugh called once during that week. You doing okay? Yeah, I know this situation isn't ideal. The warehouses are struggling, but Wade needs to understand what he threw away, what you built. Some people only learn through consequences. What if he doesn't figure it out? Then we'll make other arrangements. But that's not your problem anymore. You gave 9 years. You don't owe us anything else. He was right. I didn't. I started applying to other positions, different companies, different industries, places where inventory management mattered, where experience counted for something. 3 weeks after Wade fired me, I got an offer. Smaller company, manufacturing operation. They needed someone to organize their distribution system. Better pay than I'd made before. Flexible hours. Boss who asked questions and actually listened to answers. I accepted. Wade called when he found out. Someone must have told him, "You're really leaving? What am I supposed to do? Figure it out. Like I did 9 years ago, when nobody wanted this job. That's different. You had time to learn. I had time because I took it. Nobody handed me knowledge. I built it. You could have learned any time. You chose not to." He went quiet. Then, "I'm sorry. I didn't understand what you did. I thought it was just managing lists. I know. If you come back, I'll do better. I'll learn. I'll support you properly. Wade, you fired me. You looked me in the face and said you found someone better. You can't unfire that. You can't take back showing me exactly how much I meant to this place. It was a business decision. Everything's a business decision until it affects you personally. Now you're living with yours." I hung up, blocked his number, started my new job the following Monday. I heard later that Wade lasted another month before Hugh finally removed him. Not fired, transferred to a smaller location, single warehouse, no direct reports, essentially demoted while keeping his title. They brought in someone new to run the division, someone who understood operations, who spent the first month just learning the system I'd built, talking to suppliers, understanding why things were arranged certain ways. That person called me once. "I'm trying to untangle what's here. Your notes help, but there's so much institutional knowledge that's just gone. How did you keep all this in your head?" 9 years of showing up, I said. 9 years of showing up. 9 years of fixing problems nobody else wanted to touch. 9 years of learning what worked and what didn't. She thanked me, said if I ever wanted to consult, they'd pay well. I told her I'd think about it, but I didn't want to go back. Not even as a consultant. That chapter was done. My new job felt different from day one. The owner, a woman named Bree, walked me through the facility personally, showed me every area, introduced me to every person, asked me what I needed to succeed. Time, I said. Time to learn your products, your suppliers, your processes. This won't be instant. I know, Bree said. That's why we're hiring you. We need someone who understands this takes work. It was refreshing. Being treated like my knowledge mattered, like experience was valuable instead of expensive. The facility was chaos when I started. Not as bad as my old warehouses had been 9 years ago, but close. Products scattered, no clear organization system. Suppliers frustrated by constant ordering mistakes. I'd seen this before. I knew how to fix it. I started the same way I had years earlier, learning every product, talking to everyone who worked there, understanding the flow, where things came from, where they needed to go. What slowed the process down? Took me 3 months to build a working system, color-coded zones, rotation schedules, supplier relationships rebuilt, reports that actually tracked what mattered. Bree checked in regularly, not hovering, just present. How's it going? What do you need? Any obstacles I can remove? That's what good management looked like. Someone who understood that helping employees succeed was how you succeeded. Meanwhile, I heard stories from my old workplace, through friends still there, through industry contacts, through the occasional message from someone who had my number. The new division manager was struggling, not because he was incompetent, but because rebuilding what I'd spent 9 years creating was nearly impossible. The institutional knowledge was gone. The supplier relationships had been damaged during Wade's chaotic month. Trust took years to build and moments to destroy. Products were moving again. Orders were getting filled, but it wasn't smooth. It wasn't efficient. It was functional at best. One of my old supplier contacts called me, guy named Roland. I'd worked with him for 7 years. He provided seasonal merchandise, outdoor equipment, camping gear, holiday decorations. Your old company keeps messing up orders, he said. Wrong quantities, wrong timing. I've tried working with their new person, but it's not the same. Any chance you'd consider coming back? I'm not going back there, Roland. What if I move my contract to wherever you are now? Would your new company be interested in seasonal merchandise? I thought about it, talked to Bree. She was interested. We worked out an arrangement. Roland shifted a portion of his business to us. Then another supplier did the same, and another. Within 6 months, my new company had picked up 4 major suppliers who'd previously worked with my old employer. Not because I asked them to switch, but because they valued reliability. They valued relationships, and those relationships had been with me, not with the company. Hugh called me around that time. You're stealing our suppliers. I'm not stealing anyone. They're making business decisions, just like Wade did when he fired me. Hugh laughed. Actually laughed. Fair point. How's the new place treating you? Better. Good. You deserved better than what happened. I'm sorry it took Wade's stupidity for you to find it. You could have stopped him. I could have, but you would have stayed in a place that didn't value you. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to us is the push we need towards something better. He wasn't wrong. I'd been comfortable at my old job. Not happy, not fulfilled, just comfortable, familiar. I probably would have stayed another 9 years, building systems for people who didn't appreciate them. Getting fired hurt, but it freed me. My kids noticed the difference. Not just the better pay, though that helped, but my mood, my energy. My daughter Riley said it one night at dinner. You seem lighter, Mom. Lighter. Like something heavy isn't sitting on you anymore. She was 14, too perceptive for her own good. But she was right. I'd been carrying weight for years. The weight of being undervalued, of working harder to prove I deserved to stay, of making someone else look good while staying invisible myself. That weight was gone now. Work became something I did instead of something that drained me. I solved problems, built systems, trained new employees properly, had conversations with management where my input mattered. About 8 months after I started my new job, Bree called me into her office. We're expanding, opening a second facility across town. I want you to oversee inventory for both locations. Build the new system from the ground up. Train someone to help you manage it. It was a promotion. More responsibility. More money. More recognition. I'm in, I said. You don't want to think about it? I've been thinking about it since I walked in here. This is exactly what I want to do. Building the second facility's system was satisfying in ways I couldn't fully explain. Like creating something from nothing. Knowing it would work because I understood what made systems work. I hired an assistant, young guy named Carlos, 23, eager to learn, asked questions constantly, wanted to understand not just what to do but why. Training him reminded me of training myself 9 years earlier, showing him how products moved, why certain items needed specific storage, how to read supplier patterns, when to anticipate problems before they happened. He absorbed everything, took notes, made mistakes, and learned from them. Within 6 months, he was handling daily operations while I focused on bigger picture planning. That's what succession should look like. Not firing someone and hoping their replacement figures it out, but deliberately building knowledge, passing it on, creating systems that survived beyond one person. My old workplace never called me again after that first conversation with the new division manager. I heard through the grapevine that they'd stabilized. Not great, not back to what it was, but functional enough to keep operating. Wade disappeared from my radar entirely. I didn't ask about him, didn't look him up, didn't care. Some people thought I should feel triumphant, like I'd won something, but it didn't feel like winning. It felt like moving forward, like leaving behind something that didn't serve me and finding something that did. One afternoon, about a year after I'd been fired, I was in the new facility checking a shipment when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Darby? This is Glenn. I don't know if you remember me. I worked in receiving at your old job, Zone B warehouse. I remember. How are you? I'm okay. Listen, I'm calling because I'm leaving the company. Found something else. And I wanted to thank you before I go. Thank me? You probably don't remember, but 3 years ago, I made a huge mistake. Mixed up 2 shipments. Cost the company thousands. I thought I'd be fired. You came and found me in the loading area. I was panicking. You said, mistakes happen. Let's fix it. You stayed 4 hours after your shift helping me sort it out. You never told anyone it was my fault. You took responsibility in the report. I did remember. Vaguely. It had seemed like the right thing to do at the time. Glenn was a good worker. One mistake didn't define him. You didn't need to call, I said. But I appreciate it. I needed to. Because when you got fired, I felt sick. We all did. You'd helped so many of us over the years. Fixed our problems. Covered our mistakes. Taught us how to do things right. And the company just threw you away like you were nothing. Glenn, let me finish. I wanted you to know that we noticed. We remembered. And I'm not the only one who's left since then. A lot of people have. Because if they could do that to you, they could do it to anyone. You showed us how we deserve to be treated. And when they treated you like that, it opened our eyes. After Glenn hung up, I sat in my car for a while, thinking about what he'd said. I'd never considered that my firing affected other people, that it sent a message beyond just me losing a job, that it showed everyone else exactly how much loyalty meant to that company. Over the next few months, I heard similar stories, people reaching out, thanking me, telling me they'd moved on to better situations. Some had taken positions at my new company. Others had found different paths entirely. It was strange. Being fired had felt like an ending, like failure, but it had actually been a catalyst. For me, for others, for change that needed to happen anyway. Bree mentioned it once. You know, we've hired 5 people from your old company in the past year. They all say the same thing, that you showed them what good work looked like, that they wanted to work somewhere that valued that. I didn't know what to say to that. You built more than an inventory system at that place, Bree continued. You built a standard. People saw how you worked, how you treated them, and when the company failed to meet that standard, they left. That's leadership, Darby, whether you meant it to be or not. Leadership. I'd never thought of myself that way. I was just someone who showed up and did the work, who helped when people needed help, who tried to do things right. But maybe that was leadership, not titles or authority, just consistency, integrity, treating people like they mattered. And the Employee of the Year goes to Emma. Congratulations on your exceptional team spirit. The room erupted in applause as Emma bounced to the stage, her perfectly styled hair catching the light. Our boss handed her a small box with a white ribbon. She opened it, confusion washing over her face, until she pulled out a key fob with the unmistakable Tesla logo. No way! She screamed, jumping up and down. A Tesla? Are you serious? Our boss nodded, beaming like a proud father. Model 3, white, just like you wanted. Just like she wanted. Of course he knew what she wanted. The crowd gasped and cheered louder as our boss led everyone outside, where a gleaming white Tesla sat in the parking lot with a giant red bow. Emma was practically hyperventilating as she circled it, trailing her manicured fingers along its pristine surface. I stood frozen, gripping my champagne so tightly I thought the glass might shatter. 3 years of bringing in our largest accounts. 3 years of working until midnight. 3 years of skipped weekends and canceled plans. My portfolio had increased company revenue by 42% this year alone. And now, our boss announced, returning to the podium, for our other top performer. The spotlight found me, and suddenly everyone was looking. I straightened my shoulders and forced a smile. This was my moment, finally. Ashley has been with us for 3 years now, and her contribution has been significant. Significant? I doubled our client base. He reached under the podium and pulled out a thin white envelope. For you, Ashley. Thank you for your hard work. The envelope felt light between my fingers. I opened it slowly, aware of the watching eyes. Inside was a gift card, $100, to Starbucks. My name was scribbled in smudged ink, barely legible. The silence was deafening. Someone coughed. A few people exchanged glances. Well, my boss prompted, aren't you going to say something? I looked up at him, then at Emma stroking her new Tesla through the window, then back at the gift card that wouldn't even cover a month of the coffee I bought while working late. Thank you, I managed, my voice oddly steady despite the hurricane inside me. It's exactly what I deserved. Nobody caught the edge in my voice. Nobody except Grace from accounting, who winced slightly. Our eyes met across the room, and in that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. I smiled. Not the practiced, professional smile I'd perfected over the years. A different kind of smile. The kind that promises something is coming, something nobody sees yet. Because they'd all learn soon enough that the most dangerous woman in the room isn't the one clutching keys to a new car. It's the one holding a worthless gift card who's finally seeing things clearly. And I was beginning to see very clearly indeed. Wait, before I continue this story of corporate betrayal and calculated vengeance, take a second to hit that like button if you've ever felt undervalued at work. Drop a comment about the worst recognition you've ever received. Subscribe to hear more stories that'll make your jaw drop. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. My name is Ashley Porter. I'm 32, detail-oriented to a fault, and until that night, I believed hard work and results were the currency of success. My mother raised me alone in a small apartment above the diner where she waited tables. No one will hand you anything in this life, she'd say, while soaking her swollen feet after double shifts. You work twice as hard for half the credit. I'd thought things would be different for me. I'd gone to college on scholarships, graduated with honors, and landed a job at what seemed like the perfect company, a boutique marketing firm specializing in luxury hospitality clients. The kind of place where creativity and numbers were supposed to matter equally. When I started, there were 10 of us. By my third year, we'd grown to nearly 50, with a downtown office and a reputation for turning struggling luxury properties into must-visit destinations. I'd been there 6 months when Emma arrived. She was hired as a junior account manager, same as me. We started friendly enough, a lunch together occasionally, helping each other meet deadlines. Then things changed. The first time I noticed something off was during a presentation for the Wellington, a struggling historic hotel that needed rebranding. I'd spent weeks researching, creating concepts, and preparing financials. Emma had been assigned to assist. I love what you've put together, she said the night before, flipping through my presentation. So thorough. The next morning, our boss came in late. Emma was already there, sitting in his usual spot at the head of the table. I hope everyone's ready, she said. I've been working on this day and night. Before I could react, she launched into my presentation. Slide by slide, my words, my ideas, my research. When she finished, our boss clapped his hands. Excellent work, Emma. This is exactly the innovation we need. I sat in stunned silence as she accepted the praise. After the meeting, I approached her privately. That was my presentation, I said quietly. She looked genuinely confused. What? No, I put that together myself. We probably just had similar ideas. My file was open on your computer last night. She laughed. Ashley, sweetie, don't be that person. Nobody likes an office drama queen. I was so shocked by her audacity that I didn't push further. A mistake. The first of many. Over the next 3 years, a pattern emerged. Emma took extended lunches with our boss, organized birthday parties for his children, always laughed the loudest at his jokes. Meanwhile, I put my head down and worked. Brought in client after client, built relationships, generated revenue. The Wellington became our biggest success story, doubling its occupancy in 6 months. I created the strategy. Emma took the bows. When they featured it in a hospitality magazine, Emma was photographed beside our boss, both grinning in front of the hotel's grand entrance. Team effort, she said when I confronted her. We all played our part. I swallowed my frustration and focused on results. Surely, eventually, the numbers would speak for themselves. They didn't, and now here I was, holding a coffee gift card while Emma had car keys worth $80,000. Later that night, I sat in my apartment staring at the gift card on my coffee table. My phone buzzed with a text from Grace. "That was messed up. You okay?" I wasn't okay, but I was done being a doormat. What happened next wasn't an emotional decision, though many would later assume it was. It was strategic, calculated, a chess player seeing 20 moves ahead. First, I pulled out my employment contract. When I'd been hired, I'd negotiated an unusual clause. If I chose to leave, I could maintain client contact for 30 days to ensure smooth transitions. The company lawyer had laughed. "Nobody ever leaves voluntarily," he'd said. "But sure, if it makes you feel better." That small clause was now my secret weapon. Second, I created a detailed inventory of every client I'd brought in, every campaign I'd created, every result I'd generated, with numbers, dates, and communications. I didn't sleep that night, but by morning, I had everything I needed. My plan was taking shape, and it would be beautiful in its simplicity. Monday morning, I arrived at work early, dressed in my most professional outfit. When my boss finally showed up at 10:30, I was waiting with an envelope. "What's this?" he asked, barely looking at me. "My resignation letter," I replied calmly. 2 weeks' notice, effective immediately. He glanced up, seemingly more annoyed than concerned. "Resignation? Because of the recognition thing? Don't be so sensitive." "Not at all," I said smoothly. "Family priorities. You understand." He shrugged. "Well, good luck with whatever." I'd expected more reaction, perhaps even a counteroffer, but he was already checking his phone, dismissing me from his thoughts. That was his first mistake. For the next 2 weeks, I was the model departing employee. I organized my files, trained my replacement, brought pastries on my last day. Everyone thought I was leaving with Grace, heading off to focus on some vague family matters. Even Emma seemed to buy it, giving me a perfunctory hug on my final day. "Keep in touch," she said, already turning back to her computer. I smiled. "Oh, I plan to stay very connected." She didn't catch my meaning. Nobody did. The moment I walked out those doors for the final time, I initiated phase 2. I sent handwritten notes to our 6 biggest clients, the ones I'd personally cultivated, whose business comprised nearly 60% of the company's annual revenue. The notes were simple: an invitation to a casual industry lunch the following week. No pressure, just a chance to catch up. That evening, my phone rang. My former boss's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Hello? Ashley, heard you're having a goodbye lunch with some of our clients. How thoughtful. Mind if I join?" His voice was casual, but I caught the edge of worry. "Actually," I replied sweetly, "it's more of a hello lunch. I'm starting my own business." There was silence, then sputtering. "You're… what? You can't. Those are our clients." I kept my voice level. "They're nobody's clients. They choose where to take their business. This is unethical. It's completely legal," I finished for him. "Check Section 12 of my employment agreement. I'm well within my rights to maintain contact during this transition period." He hung up without another word. The morning of the lunch, I woke with knots in my stomach. What if nobody showed? What if I'd misread my relationships with these clients? What if loyalty to the company prevailed? I arrived at the restaurant 30 minutes early, claimed the private room I'd reserved, and waited. Each minute felt like an hour. Then the door opened. Philip Henderson, owner of 3 luxury ski resorts and our oldest client, walked in. Then Mary Zhang from Ocean View Properties. Then the others, one by one. All 6 had come. As we settled in with drinks and appetizers, I felt a surge of confidence. Phase 2 was working perfectly. What I didn't know was that my former boss had his own plans in motion, plans that would test everything I thought I knew about business, loyalty, and justice. And the stakes were about to get much, much higher. I didn't pressure them at lunch. I simply laid out my vision: a boutique agency, providing the same expertise they'd come to value, but with more personalized attention, lower fees, and no corporate bloat. "The truth is," I said, spreading my hands on the table, "large agencies often end up charging premium rates to cover unnecessary overhead, without fancy downtown offices and company cars to pay for. I can offer the same results at significantly better rates." Mary Zhang, who ran Ocean View Properties, leaned forward. "And it would just be you handling our accounts?" "Initially, yes," I said. which means you'd have my undivided attention. As we grow, I'll only bring on people who meet my standards for both ethics and excellence. Philip Henderson, normally reserved and cautious, tapped his water glass thoughtfully. Your work on the Wellington revitalization was exceptional. We all know that campaign was your creation. I felt a rush of validation. They had known all along. Thank you, I said simply. The table fell quiet as dessert arrived. No one had explicitly committed yet. My heart pounded as I prepared my closing remarks. I'm not asking you to decide today, I concluded. Just remember me when your renewal comes up. Philip, who rarely spoke first in any gathering, cleared his throat. Why wait? I'm moving my business today. The others exchanged glances. Mary was next. Oceanview's contract renews next month anyway. Consider us on board. By the time the check arrived, all 6 had pledged to follow me. I maintained my composure, but inside I was soaring. As we walked out, Philip held back, touching my elbow gently. You should know, he said quietly. Your boss called me this morning, offered a 30% discount if I declined this lunch. My stomach dropped. And yet, you came. He smiled. Some things matter more than price, Ashley. Integrity is one of them. How? I hadn't anticipated my former boss would move so quickly, but it made sense. He wasn't stupid, just arrogant and short-sighted. Back in my apartment that evening, I allowed myself a small celebration. A glass of wine, a rare moment of pride. Phase 2 was complete. Then my phone exploded with notifications. First came the text from my former boss. Call me immediately. Then an email from Emma. What have you done? Then a voicemail from Grace. Holy crap, Ashley. The office is in chaos. Call me. I savored each message like a fine appetizer before the main course. Let them stew. Let them wonder. Let them feel what I'd felt. Powerless, confused, devalued. My phone rang again. My former boss. This time, I answered. 6 clients, Ashley. 6? Do you have any idea what you've done? I settled deeper into my couch. I believe I've started my own business with clients who value my work. You've destroyed 3 years of relationships. This is corporate sabotage. No, I corrected calmly. This is the free market at work. Clients choosing where they receive the best service. We'll sue you into oblivion, he snarled. I've already called our attorneys. I suggest they start by reading Section 12 of my employment agreement, I replied, particularly the client transition clause. The silence told me he was finally taking this seriously. Come back, he said, his tone suddenly conciliatory. Let's talk this through. Name your price. Any car you want. Tesla, Mercedes, whatever. I almost laughed. I already have what I want. Think about this, Ashley. You're one person. We're an established company with resources. You can't possibly service all these accounts alone. There it was, the first hint of doubt. Could I really pull this off alone? Watch me, I said, and ended the call. But after hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness of my apartment, worry creeping in. He wasn't entirely wrong. 6 major clients meant endless demands, constant attention, and more work than any single person could handle. Had I overreached? Was my confidence just wounded pride pushing me toward inevitable failure? I was still sitting there when Grace called again. Can you talk? She asked. Not on the phone. In person. We met at a quiet bar far from the office. Grace looked nervous, glancing around as if expecting to be followed. They're not taking this lying down, she said after ordering a drink. They've called an emergency management meeting for tomorrow morning. I heard your boss telling Emma they need to contain the Ashley situation at all costs. What does that mean exactly? Grace leaned closer. They're planning to offer your clients double what you're charging to bring them back. They'll operate at a loss if necessary just to bankrupt you before you can establish yourself. My confidence wavered. I couldn't possibly match that kind of financial flexibility. There's more, Grace continued. They're gathering evidence that you stole confidential information. It's ridiculous, but they're desperate. I didn't take anything that wasn't directly related to my own work, I insisted. I know that, Grace said. But they're building a narrative, and narratives can be powerful, especially with the right attorneys behind them. As I walked home that night, doubt grew like a shadow at sunset. What had seemed like a perfect plan suddenly felt precarious. I was one person against an established company with resources, connections, and desperation, a dangerous combination. The next morning, reality hit harder. My phone rang with the first crisis. Ocean View Properties needed immediate revisions to their summer campaign. An hour later, Philip called about an unexpected competitor undercutting his rates. By noon, 3 more clients had urgent needs that couldn't wait. I worked through lunch, dinner, and well past midnight. The same the next day, and the next. I was drowning in the very success I'd orchestrated. A week into my new venture, I received an email from a law firm representing my former company. Attached was a cease and desist letter claiming I had misappropriated confidential information and violated non-solicitation agreements. It was baseless. I'd been meticulously careful, but fighting it would require time and money I couldn't spare while servicing 6 demanding clients. That same day, Emma posted a company announcement on social media, excited to announce our new client loyalty program offering unprecedented benefits to our valued partners. It was clearly aimed at wooing back the clients I'd taken. 2 weeks in, I was operating on 4 hours of sleep a night. My apartment had transformed into a chaotic office with papers covering every surface. I hadn't cooked a meal or done laundry. Basic self-care had become a luxury I couldn't afford. Then came the first defection. Mary Jang called on a Friday afternoon. "Ashley, I need to speak with you about our arrangement." My heart sank. I knew that tone. "Your former company reached out," she continued. "They're offering a comprehensive package that includes digital marketing, PR, and event management at a significantly reduced rate, with my budget constraints. They're buying your business at a loss," I said, trying to keep frustration from my voice. "Once I'm out of the picture, those rates will skyrocket." "Perhaps," she acknowledged, "but I have shareholders to answer to now. I can't justify paying more for less, even if I prefer working with you." After we hung up, I sat motionless at my makeshift desk, one down. How long before the others followed? My phone buzzed with a text from my former boss. "Heard about Ocean View. The offer to come back is still open. Corner office. Significant raise. Your own parking spot." I didn't respond, but doubt crept in like a virus. Maybe this had been a mistake. Maybe corporate politics would always win. Maybe I should cut my losses before I crashed and burned. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I pulled out the Starbucks gift card that had started it all. $100, the supposed value of my contribution. Anger rekindled, pushing back against doubt. I hadn't come this far to surrender at the first setback. The next morning, I called Philip. "I need advice," I admitted. "Mary's gone back to my former company." "I know," he said. "They called me too." My stomach tightened, and I told them to take their offer and shove it someplace uncomfortable. He chuckled. "Ashley, did you really think we'd all jump ship because they're temporarily slashing prices?" "You have a business to run," I said. "It would make financial sense. Short term, perhaps. But I've been in business 30 years. I know a desperate play when I see one. More importantly, I know talent when I see it. The work you did for us increased bookings by 40%. That's worth a premium." Instander, relief washed over me. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet," he cautioned. "They're scared, which makes them dangerous. And you still have a fundamental problem. You can't do this alone." He was right. I needed help, but hiring staff required capital I didn't have. It was a classic catch-22. "What would you suggest?" I asked. "Strategic partnerships," he replied without hesitation. "Not employees, but other independent professionals who complement your skills. Split projects, not overhead." It was so obvious I wondered why I hadn't thought of it myself. Probably because I hadn't slept properly in weeks. That afternoon, I reached out to 3 former colleagues who had left the company before me. A financial wizard who'd quit after being repeatedly passed over for promotion. A creative director who'd been pushed out for not being a team player when she questioned unethical practices. A digital strategist who'd left to freelance. All 3 agreed to meet. All 3 had stories similar to mine. All 3 had skills I desperately needed. By the end of the week, we had formed an informal collective, independent professionals, who could collaborate on projects without the overhead of a traditional agency. We created a shared workspace in a converted warehouse that cost a fraction of downtown rent. When my former boss called again, I didn't feel the same uncertainty. "Heard you're bringing in reinforcements," he said, attempting casual but failing to hide his concern. "Interesting strategy. Just adapting to client needs," I replied. "Those independent contractors will leave you the moment something better comes along," he warned. "They have no loyalty." "Perhaps," I acknowledged. But then, loyalty seems to be in short supply these days, doesn't it? And he changed tactics. This has gone far enough, Ashley. We're preparing legal action. Last chance to come back and avoid an ugly situation. Read Section 12, I reminded him. And while you're at it, check the client ownership clauses. You might find them educational. I hung up feeling stronger than I had in weeks. He was bluffing about legal action. My former company's own contracts were ironically my best protection. They were so focused on protecting the company from employees that they'd never considered the reverse. 3 months in, we weren't just surviving, we were thriving. My collective had grown to 7 independent professionals. We'd implemented Philip's strategy of profit sharing rather than traditional salaries, creating a team where everyone was personally invested in success. Even better, 2 new luxury clients had approached us after hearing about our work. Word was spreading, but my former company wasn't finished. They launched a whisper campaign, suggesting to industry contacts that I was unstable, vindictive, impossible to work with. They hinted at pending litigation. They implied I'd stolen proprietary information. Some potential clients were scared off. One existing client called to express concern. "Is there any truth to these rumors?" he asked directly. "None," I assured him. "They're desperate attempts to discredit me because they can't compete on results." He seemed satisfied, but the damage was being done. Doubt is a powerful weapon in business relationships. 4 months in, Grace called with a warning. "They're planning something big," she said. "Your boss has been in closed-door meetings with legal all week. Emma's involved too. Can you find out what it is?" "I'm trying, but they're being unusually secretive. Whatever it is, they think it's their silver bullet." I thanked her and tried to push the worry aside. I had clients to serve, projects to complete, a business to build. Then came the email that changed everything. It was from an unfamiliar address, but the subject line froze my blood. "Evidence you might find useful." I almost deleted it as spam. Thank goodness I didn't. Inside was a simple message. "Thought you should see what they're planning. I can't stand by anymore." Attached were screenshots of internal emails between my former boss, Emma, and the company's legal team. As I read them, my hands began to shake, not with fear, but with something much more powerful: anticipation. Because in those emails was everything I needed, everything I couldn't have planned for, everything that would transform my revenge from satisfying to legendary. And they had no idea it was coming. The attached emails were a goldmine of incriminating information. My former boss and Emma had been systematically defrauding the company for years. Email after email detailed how Emma had created fake expense reports, claiming client dinners that never happened, travel that never occurred, and team-building events that were actually personal shopping sprees. My former boss had approved every fraudulent claim, while simultaneously denying legitimate expenses from other team members. But that was just the beginning. There were emails discussing how they'd been artificially inflating client invoices, then directing the excess funds to a separate account they controlled. Small amounts from each client, adding up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. Most damning of all were the emails about the Wellington campaign, MI campaign. Not only had they taken credit for my work, but they'd also altered the performance reports to minimize my contribution while exaggerating their own. "Make sure A's name is buried in the appendix," my boss had written. "Keep her visible enough to do the work, but invisible enough that clients associate success with our leadership." Emma's response, "Already on it." Also deleted her from the presentation attendee list, so there's no record she was even there. As I scrolled through file after file, a strange calm settled over me. This wasn't just about a Tesla versus a gift card anymore. This was about systematic fraud, deception, and theft. Not just from me, but from the company itself. The final email in the thread was from yesterday. "Legal thinks we have enough to shut her down permanently. The lawsuit goes out tomorrow. We'll claim she stole client information, violated non-compete clauses, and engaged in unfair business practices. Even if we lose eventually, the legal fees will bankrupt her before it ever gets to court. Set up a call with the remaining clients to let them know their trusted advisor is facing criminal charges." At the bottom of the email was a simple signature, A. It had to be Jasmine, the quiet IT specialist who had always been friendly but kept to herself. I'd helped her once when she was overwhelmed with a project, staying late 3 nights in a row to meet her deadline. I'd forgotten about it. She clearly hadn't. I printed everything. made digital backups, and then considered my options carefully. This wasn't a moment for rash decisions. I could go straight to the police. That would certainly cause problems for my former boss and Emma, but it might also drag the entire company down, including innocent employees like Grace. I could use it as leverage, threatening to expose them unless they backed off. But blackmail, even when you're in the right, is legally and ethically questionable. Or I could be smarter, more strategic. Use this information not just to protect myself, but to build something lasting. I chose the third option. First, I called my small team together and explained the situation. I shared the emails but redacted the parts that could identify who sent them. "This changes everything," said Tomas, our financial expert. "With this evidence, we could not only stop their lawsuit but countersue for defamation and tortious interference." "We could," I agreed, "but I have something better in mind." My plan was simple but effective. We would continue building our business, ignoring the threats. When they filed their lawsuit I had knew was coming any day, we would be ready with a response that would blindside them completely. In the meantime, we needed to solidify our client relationships and expand our team. I reached out to 2 more former colleagues who'd been marginalized at the company. Amina, a brilliant media buyer who'd been repeatedly passed over for promotion because she was too quiet, and Daniel, a client relations specialist who'd quit after being blamed for a mistake Emma had made. With a team of 9 independent professionals, we could now handle twice the workload. We signed confidentiality agreements among ourselves and created a formal operating agreement for our collective. We were no longer just a temporary alliance. We were becoming a real company. 2 days later, it happened. A courier delivered a thick envelope containing a lawsuit, naming me as defendant in a case alleging theft of confidential information, client poaching, and unfair business practices. I called our attorney, a friend from college who specialized in business litigation. She reviewed the complaint and the evidence I'd received. "They have no idea what's coming, do they?" she said with a smile in her voice. "Not a clue," I confirmed. We prepared our response carefully, making sure every detail was perfect. When the day came to file it with the court, I asked to deliver it personally. I wanted to see their faces. Their law firm occupied 3 floors of a downtown high-rise. I wore my most professional outfit and carried a sleek leather portfolio containing our response to their lawsuit. The receptionist directed me to a conference room where my former boss, Emma, and 2 attorneys waited. My former boss looked smug. Emma examined her nails, barely acknowledging my presence. "Ms. Porter," one of the attorneys began, "I understand you wanted to discuss settling this matter." "Not exactly," I replied, opening my portfolio. "I'm here to deliver our formal response to your complaint." I slid copies across the table to each of them. "You could have had your attorney do this," my former boss said with a dismissive wave. "I wanted to watch you read it," I said simply. Their attorney opened the document first, scanning the introduction. His expression remained neutral until he reached page 3. Then his eyebrows shot up. He flipped through the next several pages rapidly, his face growing increasingly concerned. "What is it?" my former boss demanded. "Sir, I think we should discuss this privately," the attorney said quietly. "Just tell me," he snapped. The attorney cleared his throat. "They've filed a countersuit for fraud, embezzlement, defamation, harassment, and there's evidence attached. Emails, financial records." My former boss grabbed the document, his face reddening as he read. Emma leaned over his shoulder, her complexion turning ashen. "Where did you get these?" she whispered. "Let's just say not everyone at your company appreciates being associated with fraud," I replied. "Our filing includes copies to the district attorney's office, the state attorney general, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, since your company is publicly traded." The second attorney, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "We should adjourn this meeting immediately." "One more thing," I said, placing another document on the table. "This is a press release going out tomorrow morning, announcing that my company has been awarded a contract with the Wellington Hotel Group to manage all 7 of their properties worldwide. Philip Henderson personally recommended us after the success of our previous campaign." I stood to leave, pausing at the door. "Oh, and we're hiring. Several positions just opened up at our firm. I believe you'll be needing new jobs very soon." The aftermath unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated. The lawsuit against me was withdrawn by the end of the day. Within a week, both my former boss and Emma were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. 3 weeks later, they were fired for cause. No severance, no references, no golden parachutes. The company's board reached out to me directly, asking for a meeting. I agreed, but on my terms. The meeting would be at my office, not theirs. When the day arrived, 3 board members entered our converted warehouse space. They looked out of place among our modern, minimalist decor and collaborative workspace. No corner offices here, no status symbols, just smart people doing exceptional work. Impressive operation, the board chair said, looking around. You've built this in just 5 months? When you focus on talent instead of appearances, it's amazing what you can accomplish, I replied. They'd come with an offer. They wanted to acquire my company, rolling our team and clients back into their organization. They promised autonomy, resources, and recognition. We've recognized the cultural issues that led to your departure, the chair explained. We're committed to restructuring. For what amount? I asked. The number they suggested was substantial, enough that I could have retired comfortably at 32. I appreciate the offer, I said after pretending to consider it, but we're not for sale. They looked genuinely surprised. May I ask why not? I gestured around the room where my team was working. Because we're building something based on values your company never understood. Fairness, transparency, and genuine appreciation for talent. We're proving you don't need fancy offices or company cars to deliver exceptional results. Just good people, treated well. We could offer more, another board member suggested. It's not about the money, I said. It never was. After they left, my team gathered around. We'd all heard the offer. We'd all heard me decline what would have been life-changing money for each of us. Are you sure? Tomas asked. That was a serious offer. I nodded. We're just getting started. In a year, they'll wish they'd offered twice as much. He smiled. Then, I guess we better get back to work. 6 months later, we moved into a new office. Not downtown, but in a renovated industrial building with abundant natural light, collaborative spaces, and a rooftop garden. Every team member had contributed to the design, creating a space that reflected our values. On our first day in the new space, I gathered everyone together. We'd grown to 17 team members, all working on a profit-sharing model that meant everyone had skin in the game. I have something to show you, I said, unveiling a framed object on the wall. It was the Starbucks gift card, mounted against a background of black velvet. Beneath it was a small brass plate engraved with the words, "Know your worth." Grace, who had joined us 3 months earlier after my former company downsized her department, raised her glass of champagne. To knowing your worth. And to coffee, Tomas added with a grin, which, ironically, this card has never purchased. Everyone laughed. I looked around at these talented people who had taken a chance on a new vision, who had trusted me when I asked them to turn down acquisition offers and keep building. And I felt something more satisfying than revenge. Vindication. I still check industry news occasionally. My former boss now works at a much smaller agency in a junior position. Apparently, fraud allegations make finding executive jobs difficult. Emma tried to start her own consulting business but couldn't attract clients. Last I heard, she had to sell the Tesla to cover legal fees. As for me, I drive a practical hybrid, not because I can't afford better, but because I'd rather invest in the people who make our success possible. We now have a program that helps team members buy homes, providing interest-free loans for down payments. We offer 6 months of paid parental leave. We close the office for 2 weeks each year so everyone can truly disconnect. Our client list has tripled. Our revenue has quadrupled. And every new team member gets the same tour I give prospective clients, ending at the framed gift card. What's the story there? They inevitably ask. Just a reminder, I always reply. Sometimes being undervalued is the universe telling you it's time to value yourself. And Descaspad, if you've ever been overlooked, underpaid, or unappreciated, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see your value. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting ahead, building something better, and bringing good people along with you. Drop a comment if you've ever had a boss who didn't appreciate you. Like this video if you found your own way to succeed despite the doubters. And subscribe for more stories about turning life's disappointments into your greatest opportunities. Because the best comebacks aren't just about proving others wrong, they're about proving yourself right.